So far in this tutorial we have shown how we can plot data in an PHP web application using Google Charts. So far we just hard-coded some data. Now we want to see if we can plot data that are stored in an MySQL database. So we was able to create this basic PHP application, web application, where we are plotting data using this Google Charts. The data plotted here is just hard-coded inside this PHP file, as you see here. So the first thing we needed to do was to include these Google Charts libraries. Then we needed to create a JavaScript function. The name of the function needs to be specified here. In this case, draw a chart. So we started by defining the data we should plot. Here I have just hard-coded the data inside a two-dimensional array where we have the x-axis 1, 2, 3, etc. and the actual value here. We needed to specify some options. Then we needed to create a div with a specified ID that we used here when we are going to plot and show the Google chart object on the web page. Here we have used a line chart, and then we specify this my chart ID, which we specified here, and then finally we just use this draw function in order to basically draw this plot on the web page. But now we are going to retrieve data from a MySQL database instead. First, we need to create a database and one or more tables, and then we need to insert some data into that table or those tables. For that, we will use this PHP MyAdmin, which is an administration tool for your MySQL database. So when you have installed either MySQL locally and PHP locally, or using a web server where you have PHP and MySQL installed, this PHP MyAdmin tool is part of the package, and you can use that tool to configure your database, create tables, run and execute queries, etc. So in this tutorial we are going to create a simple or basic table called temperature that contains a primary key, temp ID. This is just a running number, so every time we insert something into this database, this will increase by 1, so 1, 2, 3, etc. So we'll typically use this temp ID as the x-axis, and then we have the temp value, temperature value, and the date time when the value is stored in the database. So we are going to create this temperature table using this PHP MyAdmin tool. Also, we are going to insert some dummy data into that table, so we are able to retrieve these data and plot them in a PHP web application and using this Google Charts. So here you see my version of PHP MyAdmin. So you get access to this tool from the web server that you are using. So let's create this new temperature table. So basically then I just copy this create table from my PowerPoint. I'm just inserting it into here. So then I'll just select SQL here, and then here I can just paste in my SQL query in order to create this temperature table. So then I basically just click go here, and then this temperature table has been created. Next, we should insert these dummy data. So then also I just copy these lines and go to SQL. Just copy those lines in, and then basically click to go in order to insert these data. So now if I'm going here now, I'll select all from this temperature table, click go, and then you see this data has been stored in the database. So temperature ID 1, 2, 3, etc. up to 10, and then we have the temperature value with some dummy data, and then temp daytime with some specified datetime values for the different values like this. So far we have been setting up our MySQL database. I have created a table called temperature and was inserting some dummy data. So now we are able to see if we can retrieve some data from that temperature data using the PHP programming language on the server side. So the first thing we need to do is to connect to the database. So here is some PHP code that you can use in order to connect to your MySQL database. So basically you need to use this built-in function in PHP, MySQL underscore connect, and then you need to specify the name of your server, your username, password, and the name of your database. And those 4 variables are specified here. So here, server name, you just if the MySQL database is on the same computer as PHP, you can just create or use localhost. Then you need to specify the name of the database and your username and password. Typically you want to put this into a separate PHP file. You can call it config.php or something. Then as we've seen here, so these lines of code where you connect to the database are put into a separate file called config.php. And then next you need to create another PHP file where you're going to retrieve data from that database and this temperature table that we just created. So here is an example how you can do that with PHP. So the first line here, require once, config PHP. Here you just include this config.php file where we connect to the database, and then you are ready to create your queries. So then we just create a simple query to retrieve data from that temperature table. In this case, select temp ID, temp value, temp datetime from temperature, and then we need to run the query by using this built-in function called MySQL underscore query, where it has 2 arguments, the connection that is created in this config file here. So here we create the connection, and then the SQL query which we have defined there. And then we just use a while loop in order to iterate through different records that are stored in the database. And then we use this $row in order to retrieve specific column values from that specific table. So we use row temp ID in order to retrieve the temperature ID. You use row temperature value, row temp, datetime, etc. for the different columns you have in your table. And the result of this simple PHP script will be the following. You just put out or print out the different values from your database like this. So this is the first step, and the next step will then be to be able to plot these data using these Google charts. Now I'm back in the Visual Studio Code editor. Here is the previous plot example where we was just plotting some hard-coded data. Now we need to create a new file, a new PHP file. Just save it here in the same folder. We can call it get data or something, .php. And now we are going to create the code for retrieving the data from this MySQL server database. In addition, I have created this config.php file where we are connecting to the database. So the first thing I need to do is to create some PHP code here, PHP start tag, and PHP end tag like this. So the first thing I need to do is to use this require once and the name of this config.php file like this, and of course a semicolon. Now I want to retrieve data from the database, so then I just define my query. I can just create a variable called SQL, and then specify the query like this. So then select under the different columns, which was temp ID, temp value, and temp date time like this. And then we need to specify from and the name of the table, which in my case is temperature like this. So that's the query. In SQL, it doesn't matter if you use upper or lowercase, but this IntelliSense, if I use uppercase, it's mark these SQL commands with blue if you use uppercases like this. So then, now I create the query. Next, I need to just get the results. So then I use this, create a new variable called result or result. Then I need to use this built-in MySQL I_query function like this, and this has two inputs, namely the connection to the database, which are created in this config.php file, and the query itself, which is SQL like this. Now, next we typically we need to use an if in order to check if we get some results from the database or not. So then if my SQL number of rows, and then result like this is actually larger than 0. So we are basically just checking if we are retrieving some data or not. Like this. And then inside, if you are able to retrieve data, we just need to use a while loop in order to retrieve one record at a time. So then while, and then the row equals to MySQL I_ fetch like this. These are just built-in functions that you need to use. And then this result like this. And now we can just start retrieving the data, so then we can use this built-in row, square brackets, and the name of the different columns in the database, in this case temp ID like this. And then we can also use this echo command or print command, so then you can just use echo like this. You can use echo, and then the same for the other rows, temp value, and this temp datetime like this. Oh, sorry. So basically that's all you need. Temp datetime like this. So now we should be able to, we have specified the query here, we are running the query, and we are getting the results inside this while loop like this. And now we are retrieving the temp ID, temp value, and temp datetime inside this while loop. So let's just save this getData.php and upload it to the server using this FTP program. I go to my web browser. So here is my previous plot. Then I just copy this one and use this getData instead.php. I got some error there, so let's see how we can fix that. Yeah, it's just some problem with my parentheses, so it's this parentheses that I put here. Of course, it should be here instead, so the number of parentheses is matching. Click Save, upload the file, and then try once more. Now it's complaining this config.php file, it doesn't exist on the server, so then of course I need to also upload that one to the server like this. Let's now click refresh here and see. So now I'm able to retrieve all the data from the database in one line. I can of course include some page break or something. So between each so here in the bottom I can take echo is line break like this. Let's see what's happening now. I upload the latest version like this. Click refresh, and then you see I get this data. I can also, in between each here, I can also have one not line break, but some something like this to separate the different columns. So update it, and then we get this following. So then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10, which is the temp ID, and here 22.5, etc. This is the values itself, and then here finally we have the date time values like this. So now we was able to create a basic database table in MySQL database, and we was creating a basic PHP program in order to retrieve those values from the database. So now basically we need to combine our previous plot program where we was just hard coding some values. So instead of using these hard coded values, we need to use these values that are retrieved from the database instead. So I not destroy this existing plot PHP, I just make a copy. I call it plot 2 or something like this. Let's open this one. So now here is how to retrieve data from the database, and here is how to plot a chart using Google chart on a PHP file. And then here I'm just hard coding the value, so I just need to remove that part. Remove that part, and then replace it the part that we have created here. Basically I just copy this part, put it in this location like this. So the data we are retrieving from the database should be on this format. I'm going to remove this later, but the data here need to be on this format, so we need to specify. So here we need to, in this case, we have this 1, 2, 3, etc. should be the temperature ID, and this should be the value. So far, we don't need to have this temp date time yet. So just remove it. So basically here I need to define this square brackets start, which is this one, like this. And then we have the 1, 2, 3, etc., which is this row temperature data, like this. So let's remove this one, put that one here. So next we need to have a comma which is this one, and then we have the value here, that one, like this. And after that we also need to have this square bracket like this. Then we can remove that part. Yeah, I guess I need some fine tuning here. So this one is a start parenthesis, and then we need to use this dot notation, and then we need to present this value like this, and then we need to have a new dot, and then it should be a comma, and then a new dot, and then this 22.5 which we have here, then a dot here, and then this end of these square brackets like this. So now I think we have it. So here echo start parenthesis, then temp ID, which is 1, 2, 3, etc. Then this comma, and then this value, and then end square brackets like this. So now I can remove. Typically I also need to have, of course, comma here, which is here. Now I can just remove that one. So now I have replaced my, if I open this previous example, this plot. So here I'm just using this as a starting point. I have been replacing these hard-coded values using this code here, which was actually retrieving data from a database by using this query. And then inside this while loop I'm just building up the data line by line. So first I retrieve this value from the database, then this value, etc. until we are finished like this. So let's hope this works. Just save it. I upload this plot2.php to my web server. I open my web browser, and then just select or write plot2.php like this, and then you see this is the same as this one, but here the data is hard-coded inside the PHP file, while here the data is actually retrieved from the MySQL database like this. It's also possible to hover over to see the different values here. Let's start check this last value, this number 10, which is 23.3. And if I go back to my PHP MyAdmin, you see the last 10 value is 23.3. Let's just edit it. Instead of 23.3, I'll just make it 26.3. Click go, and then refresh my page, and then you see the value has been changed to 26.3. So basically this is a quite easy way to retrieve data from a database and plot it using this Google Charts library in combination with the PHP programming language. And here you see the final program. Let's go through it step by step. First you needed to include these libraries from the Google Charts library. Then you needed to create this JavaScript function, draw chart. First you needed to get the data, and in this case we get the data from the database. We build up a two-dimensional array with time and temperature values here, and then by doing that by creating a query to retrieve data from our MySQL database and this temperature table. And then we just step through the different records that are stored in the database inside a while loop, and then create this two-dimensional array line by line like this. And then we have different options that you can use, like title, x-axis, legend, etc. And then we need to specify this div tag, and then we just use these built-in functions in the Google Charts library to create the chart and draw it on the web page itself. And then we end up with this we end up with these fine results where we are retrieving data from a MySQL database using PHP and this Google Charts library.